And I mean, one of the recurring leitmotifs is just us being astounded. Like, how can you charge $12 for a vegan cake the size of a muffin? You know?
That was an extraordinary example, but yeah.
That was.
Generally,
sure.
Generally, vegan baked goods are overpriced.
I understand many of these vegan businesses, they're almost like a charity. They start up with a sense of, quote, serving the community, close quote, of being a kind of, vegans feel about these businesses as if they're charities. But if it's a charity, who is the beneficiary and who's the donor, right? You can't be gouging vegans. You can't be ripping off your fellow vegans in order to support what other group of people? It would make more sense if you want to run it as a charity, incorporate it as a nonprofit, and actually sell those things at a nonprofit rate. You could do that. A pancake is a pancake. When you remove the eggs and you remove the dairy, you remove probably it's dairy powder or possibly butter or possibly milk, whatever the recipe is using. You remove the eggs, you remove the dairy. Why would the vegan pancake suddenly be way more expensive than the non-vegan pancake? I could say that for a vegan muffin, for a vegan cupcake, for a vegan loaf of bread. It's problematic to me that vegan becomes a luxury label, very much like organic. The organic label is now used to justify price inflation, for jacking up prices. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, but sir, this is an organic bagel or this is an organic muffin. So, of course, it's 4 times the price. You know what I mean? And again, maybe it should be 5% more, but it really doesn't figure. And it's just sad to see the vegan label going that way, because veganism is, for me, an ethical and ecological cause that I care a great deal about.
Yeah, me too.
À-bas-le-ciel.
Hey guys.
Awfully.
Yeah, I bought a new lighting setup, but it didn't come with a plug, so we haven't plugged it in or used it yet. So you all have to suffer through the horrible video quality that you have as a result under this lighting. But anyway, look, babe, we've talked about this IRL, but we did no prep for this video. It's scary to me that vegan, the word vegan, becomes a label for overpriced food, justifying overpriced food. And that most of the time when you're looking at, especially in restaurants, but sometimes with prepared food, sometimes with grocery store items too, when you're looking at vegan food, you're normally looking at something that is cheaper in terms of its ingredients, in terms of its composition, in terms of its production cost, something that is cheaper, ought to be cheaper, or should be cheaper than the meat item it's replacing, the non-vegan item, but in fact, it's more expensive.
Yep.
I mean, look, this is a problem from many different angles. In reality, what we're talking about here, it's like taking a sock and turning it inside out. This is the inside-out sock of what so many other YouTube channels have complained about. Quote, oh, people complain that being vegan is too expensive, but really it's cheap. You just eat lentils and broccoli every day. Close quote. Because the reality is people perceive veganism as too expensive because the word vegan has become a label for luxury food and a justification for things being overpriced. Right?
Yeah.
Like, today we went to a bakery and they had a kind of apple cake, apple strudel kind of thing that happened to be vegan. Wasn't labeled as vegan, wasn't marketed as vegan. And it was really cheap. It was really well priced, which stunned us. We've recently been all over the world. We did the most recent trip was China, Thailand, France, Detroit, then Seattle, Vancouver. Long trip. And I mean, one of the recurring leitmotifs is just us being astounded. Like, how can you charge $12 for a vegan cake the size of a muffin?
That was an extraordinary example, but yeah.
That was.
Generally, vegan baked goods are overpriced.
They are overpriced, and they're overpriced when it's a non-vegan place with just 1 or 2 vegan items labeled and promoted as such, and they're overpriced when the whole restaurant or the whole operation is vegan. Yeah. With very, very few exceptions. Look, say what you really feel, but I put this question to you. You saw the reaction we got when we just talked about price versus quality in our review of the different restaurants in Detroit. We have one video that we attempt to review every single vegan restaurant in both Detroit and Ann Arbor, 2 cities that are close to each other in the United States of America.
Well, I know somebody responded on Patreon to you and another person on the post that I made for the Detroit vegan group, Facebook group. They commented that they have to choose certain ingredients which are more expensive to verify that the baked goods are indeed vegan. So making sure that the sugar is organic so that it has been verified to be vegan. And yeah, and I can sympathize, and I think there may be some uptick in cost for some of the ingredients in vegan baked goods. But yeah, it does seem to just be astronomical compared to what you would expect. I mean, right now we are going to start baking more at home, and so it'd be good to do like a cost analysis of what the different ingredients cost, and having all vegan ingredients.
Right.
Like if you can actually estimate like how much this one cupcake should cost with all the ingredients, because we're purchasing the ingredients ourselves.
Right.
So,
well, look, in some ways, the free market is irrational. I use this example all the time, just discussions within the relationship, like not in formal essays. I say all the time, like, well, how much is a bottle of champagne worth? I mean, a bottle of champagne can be $100. A bottle of champagne can be $10,000. And a bottle of champagne, I think, in theory, can be $10 or $20. I think you can find really cheap champagne. Well, it's not because there were more grapes. It's not because the grapes cost more.
There are so many things. Like, I mean, just recently we're just starting out in the kitchen, so we're getting all the condiments that you need. Yep. So we were getting soy sauce, and it was like, okay, you can get a soy sauce. That's
right. It's a great example.
You can get one for like a smaller amount for what was close to like $10, or you can get one that's $2 and seems to be full of artificial ingredients and like.
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say.
The first ingredient isn't soybeans. The first ingredient is water, or like
right. Artificial flavoring that makes it sound. So that was what I was going to say right back. But actually, the range of prices in soy sauce, it's easier to explain than the range of prices in bottles of champagne or vegan baked goods, like a vegan cookie or vegan loaf of bread or vegan cupcake. Mm-hmm. Because in a real sense, what is soy sauce? It's actually more debatable. Anything that tastes like soy sauce and is black in color can get sold as soy sauce. But actually, when you read the labels, the more expensive soy sauce had genuinely different ingredients. Now, even then, it's kind of ridiculous how so soy sauce can be $2, it can be $20. Seems a little hard to justify, but it's true. But no, if you really measure it out at home, if you're making a cupcake, how many pennies worth of difference is it? And you're buying these ingredients in bulk. Mm-hmm. You're not buying them in little fancy gift bags. The difference in the price of the sugar can't explain, quadrupling or sextupling the price.
Yeah.
Totally, maybe it has to be 10% more expensive because you're using a slightly finer sugar than your competition. But, I don't know. Non-vegan bakeries, they may be using, a sugar that costs as much anyway. They may not be using the cheapest sugar just because of flavor. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They could be using a sugar more expensive than the vegan bakers. That's entirely possible. They can just be using a fine baker's sugar for whatever reason, because that's the effect they want. Mm-hmm. So you'd be looking at a few tiny percentage points, 5% more of the price or something, due to a difference in the cost. But otherwise, a pancake is a pancake. When you remove the eggs and you remove the dairy, you remove probably it's dairy powder or possibly butter or possibly milk, whatever the recipe is using. You remove the eggs, you remove the dairy. Why would the vegan pancake suddenly be way more expensive than the non-vegan pancake? I could say that for a vegan muffin, for a vegan cupcake, for a vegan loaf of bread. Plenty of bread is accidentally vegan anyway. It just doesn't happen to use those ingredients without declaring itself vegan. But it's problematic to me that vegan becomes a luxury label, very much like organic, and tied in people's minds, I think in consumers' minds. Yeah, it's right. Really right. As if vegan and gluten-free are interchangeable.
Yeah, I think there have been a couple instances where you go into a restaurant or a bakery asking for vegan food, and they're like, they tell us like, yeah, it's gluten-free, and I'm like, not really interested in that. Yeah. I know some people really do have celiac disease.
Yes,
so
right. Yeah.
It is important. Yeah. But it's.
But if you're not a celiac, if you don't have that disease, then gluten-free is not an ethical crusade or cause, or it's not a movement in that sense, the way veganism is. Anyway, I don't believe there's any religion in the world that supports celiac disease as a creed or a matter of faith. I have said to you that when we go around to those shops and you see, like, let's say you're standing in a display case in a coffee shop. Shout out to JJ Bean. So JJ Bean is a relatively small coffee shop chain competing with Starbucks, but they are a chain. They're a fairly large company in that sense. But I forget, maybe they have 10 shops or 15 shops or something, but they're not huge as a chain. But when you stand in front of that case and you just see the word vegan next to several of the sandwiches, several of the cookies, have vegan. When you think about it, that's an incredibly powerful form of marketing or advertising or promotion.
And they aren't more expensive than the non-vegan sandwiches and cookies.
But there are millions of 10-year-old kids who will see that in the case and just ask, what is vegan?
Yeah.
I can remember being a little kid and asking, what is halal or what is kosher? When something is listed as halal, and then you find out what halal is when you see food with this kind of thing next to it. Yeah. So, this is a really powerful thing. But the flip side is I'm very leery about, I'm very uncomfortable with. I mean, the word vegan basically becoming a pretext for price gouging.
Yeah.
Which I think we see all the time.
Yeah, well, you were just talking about the bakery that did end up failing here in Victoria.
Right, that's right.
And you felt their prices were too expensive, and it's something that you butted heads with the owner about. But we were just at a vegan meetup, and you were talking about, someone brought up that, mentioned that bakery, and you said, oh, well, they went out of business. And she was like, yeah, well, the costs were too high. Right. She spent $20 for a sampler of the items that she sold. So
so this was a vegan bakery. It was a new startup here in Victoria, but it's not a charity. It's a business, which I respect. It's trying to break even or make some money or what have you. It's got the responsibilities of a business. Now, I wouldn't really say I butted heads with the owner about the prices, but I just said to her, okay, I want to order bagels in advance. So you have to realize that for a baker, there is no risk if you're only taking orders in advance. If I wake up in the morning and I bake 100 bagels and then I go out and sell them, and maybe only 60 of them sell and then 40 go in the garbage, that's an element of risk. Maybe some days I sell out. Maybe on Saturday and Sunday I sell all my bagels, but maybe on a Monday and Tuesday, or maybe it rains. It's a business like that, baking. There's bad weather, it's snowing, and people don't come to buy your bagels. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have one day where you only sell 10% of your bagels and 90% go in the garbage. That's risk, and in capitalism, risk is linked to reward. And that is part of the price structure for baked goods, is people trying to predict what percentage of them will sell and what percentage of them will end up being composted or worse, right? So I said to her, look, I'm sorry, but your prices work out to over $2.50 a bagel or something, even when I'm buying by the dozen and even when I'm ordering in advance. Mm-hmm. Now, actually bagels are overpriced here in Victoria anyway.
All bread is.
Yes, right. I mean, we should do some more reading about that. Yeah. There's been a scandal about that in Canada where some corporations have been admitting intentionally price fixing, intentionally conspiring. It would be an antitrust case type of situation, but intentionally multiple companies engaging in a form of conspiracy to raise the price of bread for their customers. So there are factors there. But even with that aside, you're looking at about $1 per bagel buying at a normal grocery store here. You can be a little bit more, a little bit less, $1.25 or, maybe 80, 90 cents per bagel, this kind of thing, So I just said to her, how can I justify, if I'm buying this in advance by the dozen, paying so much for the bagel? And she didn't want to hear it. So look, long story short, all I'm saying is you've got to hear it. I mean, how, again, you can't, I understand many of these vegan businesses, they're almost like a charity. They start up with a sense of, quote, serving the community, close quote, of being a kind of, vegans feel about these businesses as if they're charities. But if it's a charity, who is the beneficiary and who's the donor, right? You can't be gouging vegans. You can't be ripping off your fellow vegans in order to support what other group of people. It would make more sense if you want to run it as a charity, incorporate it as a nonprofit, and actually sell those things at a nonprofit rate. You could do that. I mean, there are religious groups that do that, providing food for within their own religion, rather than don't market it as a business. But anyway, it's tough. I mean, of course, people have to make a living, but we live in a world where Tim Hortons, it's a donut store, Tim Hortons sells a donut for $1. I think they're 99 cents here in Canada. And you have a vegan donut place. You know, what was it, $3.50? I think so. I don't want to name it because I'm getting the price wrong. But we've seen $3.50 a donut for a vegan donut. You know?
Yeah,
and we've seen worse. That's not the worst example, not by a long shot. You know.
Mm-hmm. Some of those baked goods I could maybe understand them being more expensive than non-vegan baked goods. But not a bagel.
Yeah.
You know, bagels.
That's true.
Just gonna be the same price. So why are you charging more for a vegan bagel? Like,
right.
I know.
Right. No, but look, in terms of ingredients for a bagel, you're making sure the bagel does not have honey. Some bagels have honey.
Yeah.
The bagel does not have eggs. Some bagels have eggs. Mm-hmm. How can that justify inflating the price?
Right.
And it's not like there's beautiful icing on it. It's not like there's a role of personal creativity in terms of, the way that some specialized baked goods, there's an element of presentation or plating or something else that goes into it.
I just thought about this too. It's bullshit that the person that commented on my Detroit Vegans post said that they have to guarantee that it's organic sugar, because technically organic is not vegan.
That's right. That's true. Organic uses cow's blood.
Yeah. So. Sorry, I just had to
I know.
comment on that.
I know, but particular businesses. Well, no, but I mean, that is the thing. The organic label is now used to justify price inflation for jacking up prices. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, but sir, this is an organic bagel or this is an organic muffin, so of course it's 4 times the price. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And again, maybe it should be 5% more, but it really doesn't figure. Mm-hmm. And it's just sad to see the vegan label going that way, because veganism is for me an ethical and ecological cause that I care a great deal about.
Yeah, me too.
That's a wrap.
À-bas-le-ciel.